Hi, gang. Welcome back to the Spilling the Tea Leaves podcast with Rachel and Michelle. Hi, Michelle. I am an animal intuitive at CottageonWolfLane on Instagram. And with me, as always, is Michelle.
My name is Michelle. You can find me at rememberlovehealing.com. I'm a crystal Reiki master. And you can also find me on Instagram at Remember Love.
Awesome. Today, we're going to be talking about moon stuff. We've talked, I don't know, maybe like a tiny bit in our prior podcasts. Maybe it sort of like came up in other conversations, but we haven't actually yet dedicated a full podcast to working with the moon and how you can do that and what that can do for you as a human and you as a spirit and a non-human. So we're just gonna, and there is so much to get into. I have this giant list. It is enormous. There's so much written on there, and doodles and flowers, and we're gonna have to do like 600 moon podcasts to even really fully scratch the surface. But we are gonna start today. There's a full moon coming up on the 17th, so just a few days from now. It is the June full moon, which in the northern hemisphere it has a couple names. So the full moons in each month that they fall tend to have sort of folk names or colloquial names that they've gotten for different reasons in the past. In the northern hemisphere, the June moon is often referred to as the strawberry moon. Strawberries are in season. The moon is tied very closely to human activities like harvesting and planting. So strawberry moon is happening. For those of us down here on the other end of the planet, it's actually the dingo moon, which I'm very excited about because dingoes are an animal, and they're
dingo moon? Really?
Yes, dingo. So dingoes they're a wild dog native to Australia. We don't have them here in New Zealand, but they hang out over in Australia, and it's the dingo moon right now. So happy June, happy moon. There's so much to unpack. I almost don't know where to start. So Michelle, you work a tiny bit with the moon, but it's not something that is a huge part of your path yet, right?
Yes, yeah, it should be. I encourage everybody to use the moon closely in their practice, but I don't necessarily use it. It's not really part or an essential part right now in my spiritual journey. I do use it for my crystals, and I do recommend using the moon for example, water elixirs and stuff like that. But we can get into stuff like that later. But yeah, I just work with it closely with my crystals. Charging and cleansing my crystals is usually what I do with the full moon. I know the moon is also related to like the Virgin Mary, and I work well with her a lot. But I'm not outside on the beach doing a moon ritual with like my tribe. I wish I was, but I'm not. So it's not really. No, not a huge part. So I'm like eager with everybody else listening to this. I'm eager to hear what Rachel has to say because it's such an easy thing to integrate into our practice, right?
It is, and it's something that affects not just humanity, but nature in general. Whether or not you realize it, it's interesting if in a very muggle sense, just do a quick Google, things like traffic accidents and bodily mishaps tend to happen more around the full moon. Ask any nurse. I know a lot of us just even if you do it jokingly, like, oh my God, stuff is crazy right now. Like, is it a full moon? Somebody check, please. Like, yeah, I mean, like we joke about it, but this stuff, like, it is. So it's really interesting. More tornadoes tend to happen around the full or the new moon than at other times.
Really?
No, seriously, guys, I urge you, just do some Googling. It's really wild. Again, if for no other reason than just the sheer joy of knowledge acquisition, just to see all this bonker stuff. Like, there's a native bird here in New Zealand called the tui, and tuis are beautiful birds, but they're I mean they're birds, man. They hang out, they do their thing. Of tuis who are diurnal, they're awake during the day. They are more active at the full moon. It is like, again, this stuff, like it's just these interesting little
There's
things that
a
you learn.
real effect. There's a real effect.
It truly,
Yeah.
truly. Um,
Yeah.
so again, if for no other reason than just to be kind of, learn all these cool things, like it's definitely worth a Google to see these really interesting things that happen at different times during the full moon. And it is an invitation, for those of you who are interested in working with it, to look at some of your other spiritual practices and see if maybe there's an opening or a chance there to align some of the things that you already believe, know, and do with some of this lunar power that is available to all of us. It's not something that you have to do. Again, if you feel pulled, called, the call of the moon, if you feel the howl rise within you, it's a very cool, it's just a really cool big power to work with. And one of the easiest ways to do it, most of us have a calendar, whether it's the good old kitchen wall calendar or a calendar on your phone. Almost all of them have already on there the phases of the moon. Again, this is such an integral part of humanity and has been for such a long time that it is just common knowledge on most of the super duper bare bones calendars that we have access to, whether electronic or actual like paper calendars. So it's really easy just to do a quick check and maybe learn a bit about each of the phases. So we'll start with the full moon, as the full moon is coming. And I know the full moon, I think that's one that we, especially because of pop culture, are more in tune with. The term lunacy is actually related to lunar cycles. People do tend to get a bit more, let's say, full at the full moon.
I'm blown right now. I had no idea those two words were even related, but yes, that does make sense. Lunar lunacy. Oh, that's gonna be my new business name. Don't copy that, people.
Like, it is copyrighted. Michelle got it.
Done.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, yes, animals do tend to be more active at the full moon. Again, just even looking sort of at horror movies and things that are much more, let's say, easily digestible within popular culture, the full moon is one that we're most familiar with. In terms of the power that is available to us during that time, it is a very rich. I mean, again, think of a kind of like culmination and just fullness available to us, which can take you a little bit too far on the lunacy side of things. But if you can harness it in such a way that you can use it to your advantage, it is a really rich and beautiful power. One thing I know that Michelle does is uses full moon energy and light to charge and cleanse your crystals. Is that okay?
Yes. So the full moon, like Rachel mentioned, is like the peak, the culmination. It's like this peak of clarity, this it's like a symbolic height of power almost. And just to give you some background, a lot of crystals, I do believe, need to be cleansed and charged. So cleansing a crystal just means giving it sort of like an energetic bath and bringing it back to its original frequency. So once you work with a lot of crystals, you tend to feel like, oh, it's not working as well, or it just feels a little heavy sometimes too. So they do need, like we need our showers, they pick up a lot of stuff so it doesn't affect us directly. They'll absorb that energy, especially thick crystals like smoky quartz, which works really well and doesn't need a lot of charging. But when a crystal does need to be cleansed, I usually recommend, or actually I always recommend, putting a crystal either on your windowsill. If it's safe to put it outside, put your crystals outside. And for a couple of reasons, the moon, aside from the fact that it can give the energetic bath, it also programs your crystal with whatever that moon is related to. So I'm not sure if you know what the strawberry moon's abilities are. Sometimes it could be for, uh, do you know? I have no idea.
I honestly don't. There is so much information out there
Yeah.
about each full moon and its powers, and we haven't even touched on things like blue moons. A blue moon is the second full moon that appears in any calendar month. So no, I do not. However, that is a fun thing that I will be Googling later.
I'm actually going to Google it, strawberry moon meaning. Here we go. Just for the sake of the crystals. So it's just a midway point. Oh wow, I might not get this quick enough for the podcast, but right, it's so
Internet.
much information. June marks the culmination of spring and launch of summer. Roses are finally in bloom, lingering skies. All right, here we go. It is, since the full moon of June is almost always in Capricorn, it will be a time to reflect on how seriously you've been focusing on making your dreams of wealth, happiness, and success a reality. Like finally allowing yourself to indulge in some well-deserved strawberries. It is a night to reap your rewards of hard work. And this is with elitedaily.com.
Okay.
All right, so every moon has its meaning. And when you, after you cleanse your crystals, you can set out very specific crystals to work with for the rest of the month until the new moon or until the full moon. Now, the moon, a lot of people do think that you should charge, or one of the ways to charge or cleanse your crystals is with the sun. But the moon's energy is so passive and so calming that crystals usually respond better with the moon energy.
Okay.
While the sun does work well with crystals, the sun also damages a lot of crystals in the full sun. For example, amethyst gets damaged really easily.
Okay.
Rose quartz gets damaged. Fluorite gets damaged with the full sun. So the safest way is to use the moon. And the full moon energy is good for a day prior to the full moon and almost 2 to 3 full days
Yep.
after the moon is on its way out. What is that? Waning?
Yes, waning. Yes.
Waning
So
moon.
yes,
Yeah.
waning is the period where it's actually getting smaller. So yes, but to Michelle's point, to harness this juicy, rich full moon energy, you don't actually have to sit there at 2 in the morning on the exact night. You have a period of about 3 days, 3-4 days, kind of like where the full moon would be sort of in the middle, and you have this period where that energy and that literal light is still going to give you what you need from it. So yeah, don't, if you're working that night, if your shift is overnight on that night, you can still work with that energy, either before or after for a couple days.
Yeah, so if you missed your window to charge your crystals, you can still put it outside. You put it on your windowsill. And then certain crystals resonate with certain moons. For the full, we'll talk about the new moon and stuff like that later, but for the full moon, which it also represents strength and power and fertility. So this is a really good time to, if you're trying to get pregnant, I usually recommend like rose quartz and carnelian next to your bedside. It's also the attainment of desires. So selenite works really, really well during the full moon. So if you're going to do rituals or you want a crystal to wear or carry with you, selenite, rose quartz, moonstone, carnelian, amethyst, and always clear quartz. And that's for the full moon.
Okay, for someone who claimed a few minutes ago to not do much work with the moon and not know that much about it, I think you were just being modest. I just want to.
No, well, because I've seen people in their practice work really, really closely with the moon, like like moon tonics and rituals, and mine is just kind of almost just focused with crystals and the moon. So when I don't feel as knowledgeable, like as you, for example, where it's part of like spell work, or if they're doing personal work, like I don't feel as versed. And I'm the first to say I don't know. Like I don't know. I know one thing, and I'll share it with you if you want to hear, but not like
one thing.
yeah, I know one thing. I'm like, I'm not making herbs and stuff. Like I can't do that. I'm not there yet. Maybe one day, but right now, I'm not there. I'm not there. I'm not dancing naked out one day. Maybe one day in the woods. Like, party. Yeah. I'm not there. I'm not there. I know crystals, and that's what I'm sharing. That's all I got. And that's it. I'm done for the rest of the podcast. Now it's just Rachel.
It is no, but truly, I mean, like Michelle and I jest, but it is. I mean, even earlier when Michelle asked me about you know, what the meanings, or you know, what this specific full moon in June kind of brings with it, like I gotta Google. Like I don't know. Yeah, it is, you know, but it is such a rich. There's just so much to dive into and to explore and enjoy. So, yeah, there's a lot, and you just kind of do what you feel called to at any particular point on your path. So back to the full moon.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a time. Yeah, so Michelle had mentioned. Yeah, it's a time of fullness and fertility, and with that, to me, comes quite a bit of gratitude. The full moon is a time, to a certain extent, of at looking at what has grown, and this fullness that is before us, and it's a call to me to look at all the things that are bathed in light, that you can, you know, it's the time during the month where you can go out at night and see, and that is a much different energy than the new moon or the dark moon, when that is a much more introspective time to me, because it's quite dark, and it doesn't give you as much ability literally to see what's around you. So for me, the full moon too is about taking this opportunity to just soak that light in, and really bathe in it, and see what's around you, and be grateful for what has grown, be grateful for what is coming, for what you are hoping to grow before you, and it's a really lovely time.
Yeah.
Followed then by the waning period. You know, and that's one thing about the moon too, which is kind of a double-edged sword. These, you know, like sometimes you'll you know, you get caught up in life, and like you forget, like, oh, the full moon period is past, like, oh my god, I was gonna do this spell or something, and you know, but like 29 and a half days later, you're gonna be there again. So there's this lovely sense of like, yeah, you might have missed it, or like right now things are dark, if you're in a dark moon time, and there's that really beautiful reminder that it's going to come back around again, and that's one of, yeah, it is. So it's a nice circular energy to tap into, this sense of like, you know, it goes and it comes, and it like the tides, by the moon, it ebbs and it flows, and it'll come back around. And you know, so even when the full moon passes, and you enter into the waning phase of the moon, so waning is when it's getting smaller, um, it shifts up the energy, and the waning energy grows stronger the further from the full moon you get. So when you're thinking about how you pray or connect, or the spells that you do, or what crystals you're working with, think too about whether it's closer to the full moon, or maybe whether you're closer to the dark moon, and the energy, you know, and just, even if you're not doing any sort of spell work or crystal work, or a sort of thing that you're actually doing, it just, you can just sit and feel it as well. Kind of look at what's going on in your life and see if there are things that you can pick out that either happen cyclically around the moon cycles, or that are potentially influenced because of the phase of the moon. Again, even if no other reason than to kind of tap into your own energy and how it relates to the cycle of the moon, can give you a greater sense of connectivity to things that are bigger than us and beyond us, and can give us a sense of comfort and power. It's pretty cool.
Especially women, right? Because
Mhm.
we also cycle through every 28 to 29 days. So, right? Sound familiar? Women do tend to be a lot closer to moon work than our male counterparts. And we, depending on when there's a whole, see, this can go on forever.
No.
Like, depending on if you're still having your time of the month, if you ever had it, like there's work that goes with that, or not even related to that, but then how your body changes according to it's so tied up and intricately, like this mesh. The women work a lot better with moon work than males. Sorry, guys.
it's
And
I
in most right, and in most folklore, the moon is seen as female.
Yes, and the solar energy is masculine. It's yang.
It's
It's
masculine.
yes.
Yeah,
Whereas the moon is receptive. It's yin, and that is not to say that men cannot be yin and receptive, and that women cannot be
absolutely.
right.
Yes.
All of us. It's duality, and it's present. The energies. The polarities of the energy that exist here
Mhm.
in this
Mhm.
plane. However, to Michelle's point, for those of us who are menstruating human beings, it it does give us at least a much sort of more um, literal and physical pathway into that tuning in. That even maybe women who are beyond that part of their life, or who've not gotten there yet, or then for males, or people with health issues who maybe don't whatever. Anyway, the point
Yeah.
is that um, and it's interesting too. When I was younger, and talking about um, the way that the patriarchal society has dealt with women's cycles, is, I mean, that's like a right, but
Oh,
um,
yeah.
but I remember as a younger woman, and even still to a certain degree, I would look at like my premenstrual time as like there's something wrong with me. Like, why am I acting like this? Versus looking at it now, when it really is, again, it's a dark moon time. It's an invitation for you to, if as much as is realistic with children and jobs, etc., um, to go inward. I mean, we are not always meant to be in this yang, productive, get stuff done mode of existence. And the sun, to a certain extent, this solar energy, this sort of male dominated energy, is very it's very switched on. The sun does its thing every day, and yes, it sets and then it comes up, and there's a sort of cycle there, but it's very reliable in its path, versus the moon, which has a much more uh, intricate or
Yeah.
hard to discern. And again, yes, so there's a lot to unpack there in terms of what society has labeled this type of energy, whether it, yeah, and yes, oh my, it's like even in my brain, I'm getting lost, because it is just there's so much to unpack with this.
Yeah. It's
um,
another rabbit hole.
it is, and it's fun, and it is awesome to work with, but it really, I mean, and like, and once you start exploring one thing, then you realize that there are 700 other aspects of this one thing you didn't even know to research yet. Oh my gosh, right. So anyway, we're talking about the waning moon, and in that waning moon time, it's, I like to call it like my pruning time. It's like things, it's like and the full moon is seasonally corresponded with summer. So it's the sense of fullness, of harvest, of here are the strawberries, and then it starts to kind of get cooler and less bright. It's this waning period. It's winding down, and it's like autumn. That's when you harvest. It's when you think about things you might want to let go of, things you might
Okay.
not. Yeah, when the moon starts to wane, when the full moon is past, and you start thinking about things that are maybe no longer serving you, preparing for the dark moon time. What do you maybe want to let go of in this time? What is not working for you right now? Um, preparing to let all of that go before you get to the dark moon time, when it's your deepest sense of going inward. And the seasonal corresponding time would be winter. There's not a lot of fruitfulness there. There's not meant to be. It is a time of darkness and not a great deal of light. It's a time that we are meant to, it's almost like an incubational period. There's a womb-like feel to it. It's dark. It should be an enclosed, safe space for you to, again, in as much as your life allows, be with
Mm-hmm.
yourself. But you don't have to be productive. You don't have to, um, even with your spiritual work, you don't have to fill up your book of shadows with all kinds of ideas. There will be another time for that when you're ready,
Yeah.
if you want to.
Is this the new moon for you?
Um,
Or is this the waning moon?
Well, it's all, I mean, it kind of like bleeds together. And like we mentioned earlier, even with the full moon, or, so the full moon is on the 17th of June. So you'd have basically from like June 15th through like June 19th to kind of like play with that energy. So
Yeah.
there is definitely more of a flow. So this sense of kind of riding. So once the full moon is past, and you're kind of riding that sense of quieting down and darkening down on the waning moon, then as you get closer to the new moon or the dark moon, it's when you
Mm-hmm.
would want to start thinking about what you might want to let go, how you might want to, again, prune or cleanse, or just let go of things that aren't serving you. And then during that dark moon time, that would be a good time either to go ahead and let that stuff go, um, or kind of just rest in that for a little while.
Yeah.
And then as maybe on like the last couple days of the dark moon, when you, and you'll, again, once you kind of like get the rhythm, you'll start to feel it. And so then when the moon is dark, but you'll feel that it starts to grow again, that is the perfect time to plant plant your new seeds and think about what
Yeah.
you want to have growing in your garden as the moon begins to wax or grow larger, because that is like winter going into spring. Um, the
Okay.
dark, yeah. So the
See,
dark
for
moon.
me, the new moon is different. I interpret the new moon
Okay.
differently.
Okay,
The
and a
new
lot.
moon for me
Yeah.
is, yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, it's. I like that you're saying that because I like to see the different perspective. But for me, the new moon is, yes, the waning moon is pruning. It's letting go.
Okay.
It's what no longer serves you is removing all that stuff. But it's
Okay.
working almost. It's like getting the soil ready for the seeds. It's removing
Okay.
the weeds. It's removing the vines.
Yes.
It's once you've already picked your strawberries. We're just going to go back to the strawberry analogy. It's removing all the dead branches and everything else.
Yes.
So removing what no longer serves you. And
Okay.
then the new moon is sometimes I do enjoy the full moon. It does have a practicality, but sometimes the new moon, to me, it's so much more powerful because it's the new beginnings. It's like planting the seeds. It's working and setting the intentions that you want to reap during the full moon. So it's
Okay.
putting
Yes.
intentions into. So one of the things that I do on the full moon is, and a lot of Reiki practitioners do this, is putting, they have a Reiki box, and it's
Okay.
putting all your intentions or your positive energies into this box. And you can pair it with a crystal or whatever. And then sending and having that box in a place that you love, in your altar, in your sacred space, and sending putting on your Reiki symbols to this box. And in this box, you write all your intentions that you want for the rest of the year until the new moon, whatever you want. Um, so
God,
it's like it's
that seems
almost like a
so
rebirth.
yes, but that's like that to me seems so active. No, and I guess, let's all right. So, oh my gosh, so much happening in my brain.
Yeah.
If and there are a lot of differing and
Yes.
interesting and to me all very valid ideas on how best to work with the moon. And maybe we should have started with this, but again, there's so much. So
FYI.
so it's interesting if you go and you log into Instagram or Pinterest or just do some Googling on moon work and moon rituals, you will find that a lot of people and there are often some passionate ideas about what exactly you need to do at exactly what stage the moon is in, and
Yeah.
they are all right. Like, yes.
Surprise! Welcome to our
The,
podcast.
you are all valid and appreciated here. Um,
Yeah.
so yes, I think now, right before we take a quick break, would be a good time to remind everyone that what what works best for me in the full moon and my understanding of it in my incarnation in this particular moment with all of the knowledge that I've amassed with Michelle likewise. Um, you will probably find some contradictory stuff out there, and it's not it's not for us to say what will work for you or for anyone else. This is just what we've found, again, working with who we are right now and what we have available to us in this time of our existence here. So with that in mind, we'll go into a little dark moon period ourselves, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. This podcast, Spilling the Tea Leaves with Rachel and Michelle, has been one of the most interesting because Michelle and I are learning so much about each other in this time. It's been a delight. Anyway, I'm going to let Michelle just go for a second here because I want to hear what she has to say about because it's anyway we just have different ideas about this and it's really fun. Okay, go ahead.
So yes, we're learning more things about each other. I don't know who you are anymore. So like I mentioned before, for me, like new moon energy, and it could possibly be with the type of personalities that we have, right? Like I like to start new projects. I like to put in the intentions. I like to like if anybody needs help starting a business or doing something, like I'm your girl, like let me make your logo. Let me like what is it that you're passionate about? Like I like that idea of putting in the work and setting the seeds for something to grow. And Rachel likes to go inward a lot, which is something I
Hey, okay,
avoid a
listen,
lot.
let me just interject. Let me just interject and put in a little astrology plug for everyone. I am a Cancer, which is a moon. It is ruled by the moon. And yes, I'm very crabby and I just want to go in my shell in the sea, which is ruled by the moon, under my moon, because I'm a moon sign person. Yeah. So anyway, yes, Michelle. Yeah, I'm just yes, astrology can also play quite a bit into this.
God, that's
Which is a whole
that's
another.
so cool.
My God. All right. Yes. So
Yes.
yeah, so it and again, this is what is so fun about all this stuff is like I am excited now, and I hope that some of you feel comfortable reaching out to us and messaging us, because I would love to hear what all of you do especially at the new moon. It seems like the new moon is a bit of and again, it's like for me, and I recognize I am super emotional. I am a Cancer. I am a water sign. I mean, it's ruled by the moon, and it's very there's a period of like 3 days at the new moon where yeah, like Michelle, like your ideas about this sound beautiful to me. And yes, so there are so many other people who want to like set intentions and plant seeds at that time, but like I don't know, man. Like I want to like the darker the hole, the better. like, and just
Oh, see, no, like I don't know. I like the new moon because it's like my time. Yes, I do go inwards and see what goals and I want to set up for myself. Like where do I want to be when the full moon comes around? So
okay.
it's like my time to see what I can do and then plant those seeds and set the new moon, the rituals for new moon. I mentioned the box before. A lot of people, once they put their intentions during a new moon and send the energy and start working towards their goal, which is the waxing moon, it's a time for manifestation and manifesting what you have in your box. Once,
Yes.
for me,
Mm-hmm.
once you get to the full moon, and this is a whole other ritual that a lot of people can do, you can open your little box of your intentions that you set during the new moon and get your list, see what you accomplished, what you didn't accomplish, what you can continue to work on, and then either put the list in another sacred space or in a drawer, burn the list, have a whole ritual. Like if you've accomplished your list, say thanks to the universe, burn it, stick it in the ashes, throw it in the ocean, whatever you feel comfortable with. But yeah, the new moon is like my time to say, I want to start a new project. This is the time to do it. Like, how can I've already pruned my field. I've already gotten rid of the
Yes.
vines and
Yep.
the weeds.
That's
Like,
super
what?
waning energy. Yes.
Yeah. So now that we're here, what can I put into the earth to grow? What's my intention and how can I manifest it during the waxing moon? And then
Okay.
the full
Yes.
moon is when it's fertile and I can pick it, and then we start the cycle all over again.
Yes. And
But yeah, that's
yes.
my
I,
new moon
I'm
version.
I am totally with you. I just feel like for me that energy doesn't like honestly doesn't start until the moon is definitely waxing and growing. Like I really feel like within this cycle, I need, like I said, I mean like I need like 3 days in a hole. like I don't I don't know how else to say it. Maybe like, again, because I'm so in tune with animals, it's like it's hibernation, it's burrowing. Like I need a time of actual rest and like even like yeah like everything that you're saying, yes, but like 2 days later, like I
See,
need
but like for me, maybe like last day, like right before the new moon, like that last day of waning between, yeah, right before it's like an
yeah
official new moon. I'm like,
yeah
okay, I pruned it. I could rest today because I don't sow till tomorrow. I don't plant my things till tomorrow. So today I can rest. Maybe that might be the period, but I don't feel I'm one of those people where I don't know how to relax almost
yes,
where
see
if
that
I'm
now
like
we're
laying
learning.
down, sorry. I mean it's true. I have a problem like, oh yeah, I can lay down and watch a movie, or I can sit on my computer and try to research something or read something or reorganize my altar or focus on like for me, my mind is always running someplace else. So I cannot, even if I decide to watch a movie, it has to be like a documentary where I'm actively learning something. And maybe that's just my energy because I like Rachel's a Cancer. My sun is a Taurus, and my moon is a Taurus moon. So maybe that's why. I don't know. I'm a Scorpio rising. Anybody, if somebody wants to give me some feedback. But yeah, I'm like, okay, now let's start a new project. How can we make this a success? What can we do to make this go? Like, how can I harvest this during the fall? Like, that's just me. And I'm just constantly, how do we do it? What do we do? Let's go. Yeah. So during the new moon, one of the crystals that I do wear, right, is very grounding. They're usually grounding crystals like obsidian or black tourmaline, sunstone and onyx. Red jade is another big one. Quartz, if you program the quartz, which is a whole other podcast in itself about programming crystals. Like we're gonna do this forever. And pyrite, which is also considered an abundance stone. So for those who are using it like me, we're just starting new projects. Pyrite paired with a grounding stone like onyx is really, really good, along with moss agate. For those who, like Rachel, prefer to just go inward, I usually recommend clear quartz with your intention. Also a grounding stone, because it's very easy to get lost almost in like emotions when you go inward a lot. So a grounding stone to keep you tethered and grounded is good. So again, black tourmaline, onyx, obsidian, smoky quartz is actually awesome for those that do decide to go the other way. I'm trying to think of one more. And labradorite and amethyst are possibly also good because it's third eye and crown chakra work. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like it's funny because you talk about like, I mean, like you are obviously, it's funny to me because the way that you describe your activities or work, I guess, during your spiritual goings on during the new moon period, to me seem really active. And it's funny because then I was kind of like, well, God, like, I mean, I'm not just like sleeping for 30 days. Like I was trying to think like, okay, well, what am I doing? And actually, like, it's yes, it is a very introspective time. I find that my ability to sort of be energetic in that way is really curtailed, and it's definitely more of a time where I guess in a way it is kind of like a hibernation, or I think the agricultural term is like a fallow period, where like you're letting the earth rest so that you can then plant either next season or next year or whatever it would be. But I find too that I do very much have a lot of inward activity at that time. So like my dreaming and my work with spirit guides is at a much heightened state during that time. Especially when I make a point to work with guides that either have moon correspondences or a lot of times actually are water creatures. Again, the moon and the tides and the moon's dominion over water, to me, makes for a really rich place to work with some of the spirit guides that you may consider working with during different moon phases. And even during these darker periods or more inward periods, like during the new moon, I find that I work a lot with orca and other sea creatures, because so much of their behavior and reproductive activities are based on the moon cycles. And I find that it's really helpful for me to tap into my dreaming and some of those subconscious liminal space places when it's a dark moon phase, and when I tap into those energies. So it's interesting. So it's like I feel like we're doing similar things, but in kind of a different way.
Yeah, like you're still expending energy, but going inward while I'm like,
Yes.
let's do all the things outside and not have to deal with our emotions. I'm kidding. I do deal with them. Just human. Just not during your
I'm gonna dive into this more. I'm feeling some resistance here. And it's very juicy. I'm intrigued. Um, but it again, it's not something that you absolutely have to time your life and your spiritual work to. It's not like you can't do spell work, like you want to find something or get something, and you're hoping to manifest, and you can never do manifesting work during a waning phase. Well,
yeah,
that would, yes, certainly you can time your life that way, but it does make it more challenging. Again, it's more of an extra layer of power and ability and electricity almost that's available to us, and it can be really powerful to tap into that and to use it. And there are so many other aspects of lunar work and lunar correspondences that we haven't even started talking about, like lunar goddesses, lunar archangels, other spiritual entities that have these moon correspondences that, again, if it's something you're already working with, like you have an oracle deck and you want to tap that practice into the lunar phase, and like, so there are a lot of really easy inroads here to kind of start looking at some of the things you're already doing and how it might correspond to the moon. A lot of esoteric and occult imagery is based on lunar images. Look in a tarot deck, and just, again, any tarot deck, and I'm sure 95% of them are going to have some image of or reference to the moon. So maybe take those cards out, meditate on them. Do they often come up in readings for you? Do they not? Do you find that you do your best work at night, or are you more of a
yeah,
solar energy person? Again, it's not even something where you have to really focus on what phase the moon is in. It's more just, again, remembering that we have this big friendly old ball of cheese in the sky that's that's there. And no, but it is. I mean, I think a lot of us actually feel quite comforted when we look up and see her there. Um, it's it's and
yeah,
we all see the same moon. I mean, even when I look up in the night sky here, I don't see the same stars as Michelle, because we're in different parts of the earth. I mean, it's
yeah,
like, but we'll always see the moon. And whether it's winter or summer, the moon is still going to show up. And um, it's just really, it's just a really beautiful, comforting, and very powerful way to enhance the work that you're already doing.
yeah, absolutely. Do you want to talk, because we're almost out of time, do you want to talk a little bit about the waxing moon? Just so we can come full circle.
Oh gosh,
Get it?
it's like oh my gosh, yes. So waxing, right. Um, it's growing bigger. So what do you want more of in your life? Think of it as spring. You've planted, whether it was during the dark moon phase or the, like, slightly after the dark moon phase, you've planted the seeds, you've watered them, your fields look amazing. What do you want to see grow? It is an excellent time to to manifest and to
Yep.
harness the energy of things growing greater, bigger. Um, it's it's a time to really call on the energy of the things that you'd like to see more of in your life.
Yeah,
What
that's
Chris?
it. I agree. I agree. I agree.
Okay,
I
so
agree.
like,
That's it.
so
I
we're
agree.
good on like most of the cycle.
Yes, except the new moon, obviously. Yeah, waxing moon, yes, it is a time to take care of your fields, to take care of yourself, to work towards what your intentions are from your new moon box if you're on Team Michelle. It's a really good time to release fears as well, to kind of, and I know a lot of people do this during the waning moon, but for
I was just
waxing,
gonna
it's
say, oh,
also,
no, no, waning.
wait, is it waxing? I know. So for me, it's that too. It's you're still taking care of your field. You're still the little critters start coming up, and you need to start to take care of them, right? I don't know why I keep going back to this field reference, but it's working for me today.
Right,
It's
it worked.
working.
Yeah.
It's working. So it also it's also a good time to kind of release those fears, and because one thing about manifesting or yeah, one thing about manifesting is if you live or if you are in a state of worry, I'm worried that X, Y, and Z is going to happen. You are actually sending that energy out into the universe, and that's exactly what you're going to get back. You are worrying is calling that bad thing you're worrying about to you. So it's really time to kind of check into your thoughts and not have, yes, we all worry and we all have things in our head. Sometimes we make them bigger than they really are. But it's really a good time to kind of check your energy and say, am I worried about something that has almost no basis in reality if you really think about it? Or is worrying a good way to use my energy right now? Is like worrying a good thing to do? Is it a good place to be? Should my energy be there right now, or should I try to focus on things that I have control over and try to keep my thoughts positive? Again, this is not about spiritual bypassing either. We're not going to be
No,
like love and
no.
light and we're never going to worry and we're never going to be unhappy. That's not it. We need to check in with our feelings, try to figure out why they're there, and if we can stop our minds from going into that like rabbit hole or that loophole of worry, then try to rein in those horses, right? So one of the crystals that I do recommend, again, a lot of them are grounding crystals. Apache tears are really good. Smoky quartz and obsidian. One that I don't recommend is
Oh,
moonstone.
okay.
And I think I've mentioned this to Rachel before. Well, a lot of people work really well with moonstone, and moonstone is a crystal that works excellent during the full moon. Moonstone, for those who are not ready to work with them, for example, those who have this mentality that works a lot with worry or fear, moonstone creates sort of this like feedback loop where if you're worried, moonstone is going to acknowledge that you're worried and it's just going to send that energy right back. So for certain people, they're able to say, oh, I'm worried. Let me check in to see why I'm worried or why I have so much fear, and let me see if I can correct it or how I can correct that or how I can move past that. For certain people or other people, especially those who are prone to anxiety or depression, that feedback, that loop, or that
Yeah.
feedback just kind of says, oh my God, I'm worried. Holy crap, I'm worried. And then you kind of stayed in that worry cycle without being able to step out of it and say, oh, I am worried. How can I uh, fix that? Or how can I move past that? Or what I can do to alleviate that feeling? So if you are one of those people who are prone to a lot of worry and anxiety and you don't feel like you're easily able to pull yourself out from that circle, then I really don't recommend working with moonstone. If you're one of those people that can say, oh, I'm worried, how can I help myself? Then moonstone would be a good stone to work with. But everybody works with it at their own need. But you should be mindful of how certain stones work, especially one as closely related to the moon as moonstone, because I mean it is in the name, right? It's a
Well,
pretty
and
stone.
it's yes, it's beautiful. But it's interesting too. And we had a bit of a chuckle about it earlier in the podcast today. But the moon can really ramp up your feelings. And if they are harder to handle feelings, and we all have them to varying degrees and at different times of our life, etc., it can feel really, really overwhelming. So piggybacking on what Michelle said about moonstone and thinking more broadly about that with the moon, there are those of us, myself included, who do have to be very mindful of our energy and in a way almost protective of it during the new moon, and then for me to a lesser extent the dark moon or the new moon. It can be really intense, and there's no other way to describe that. It's like Michelle said, it's like you sort of have these feelings, and then they like they like double back on themselves almost, and then you feel and again, and like with the full moon, you're sort of in that place for at least a couple days a lot of times, because that full moon energy hangs around, for a day or two before and then a day or two after the actual timing of the moon itself. So be mindful, especially if you're someone who's prone to depression and anxiety or other large feelings happening, whether you're pregnant or you have big things going on in your life. Whatever it is, we all have them. But you may want to consider looking at the phase of the moon and noticing what happens for you, especially that full moon time, and then to a lesser extent the new moon, and thinking about some either protective spells you can do or calling on some protective guides, using some really comforting grounding stones like Michelle said, or some salt bath, something to really keep you safe and protected during those times, because yes, there are a lot of feelings that can be amplified, which can sometimes feel excellent and can also sometimes feel decidedly not excellent.
Yeah, I'm going to link the for those watching us on YouTube, the previous podcast, like working with spirit guides, so you can ask for them for help, and then also removing negative energy, I think, is a good one to link up, especially for those who think, if you keep a journal and you're able to kind of tell where you're at during certain phases of the moon, you'll be able to see how you work or where you are in that cycle. Some people don't work well with the full moon. They don't like it. They prefer the new moon, or they notice that the lunacy increases during full moons, or so I'll link a couple of videos below from our previous podcast, just so they can have resources to help them during this crazy time that is the full moon. Or new moon, whatever.
The strawberry / dingo moon.
That is hilarious, and I'm like using every ounce of my being not to say the quote about the dingo.
Yes, the dingo didn't eat anyone's baby.
No, nothing. Nothing I'm not saying. I'll say it later. Is there anything else that you want to add before we end this podcast?
It's interesting. This is the first podcast where I feel like you and I, well, no, because we had some fun when we were talking about angels and working with angels too. But it's, I just feel again really, really grateful for this space, and not just for you and I, but I just like being able to hold these spaces together where people have different ideas about stuff and just have a good laugh about it, and then know that it's all, it's all just there for us to work with in the way that works best for us. Again and again, circle back in 2 weeks when we're in a totally different moon phase and see what we say. It's like the energy, the energy is so different, and we as humans are constantly evolving and constantly shifting, and again, I feel really grateful to have Michelle in my life, because it is to me, it is fun, and it's a safe place to, like I said, to just to come together and see what the other people are doing with their practice and how they're getting where they need to go. Yay,
Yeah,
Moon.
I mean, it's gay moon. It's a safe space. I mean, ask me in 6 months, I might go totally introvert during the new moons, and then you'd be like, I'm gonna do all the things in the dark where nobody can see
She's
me.
dancing shirtless in the new moon light.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. So, well, thank you everyone for listening. You've been listening to Spilling the Tea Leaves with Rachel and Michelle. I am Michelle. I am a crystal Reiki master and teacher. You can find me at rememberlovehealing.com. You can also find me on Twitter at rememberlove. And this is my beautiful friend Rachel.
Hi guys, I am an animal intuitive. You can find me on Instagram at CottageonWolfLane. You'll find me this full moon howling and then waiting for the new moon so I can hibernate.
We have our, you can find us on YouTube, Spilling the Tea Leaves. You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Make sure you leave a comment, you subscribe, you share, you show us love. For those of you who are interested in doing a full moon Reiki session, I will be hosting a group Reiki session, so you can sign up at rememberlovehealing.com. And you are, we'll put you on the list if there is a specific intention that you want to fulfill with your Reiki session. Just leave me a note. And yes, and we're done. We will see you next time.
Next time, we're going to talk about the solstice.
I have to research more on that. Yeah.
We'll see you next week, guys.
See you next week. Bye.